So
Okay.
welcome to another In Conversation With, and today I'm talking to Jordan Day, who's a special education needs and disability support worker in a school. And I thought it was really timely to talk to him because he's dealing with kids who are transitioning back into school and really helping them make that transition calmly and safely. So Jordan, how's it going at the moment? Have you got lots of kids coming back into school?
Yes, it's been really successful so far, getting the children back into school. Um, yeah,
What's,
it's been,
what do you think have been the biggest challenges and what have the school done to help?
I think the biggest challenge really is no one knows what it's going to look like. No one knows what to expect. And as staff in a school, we kind of have ideas and things, but it's one of those where we don't know until we actually try it out. And again, for our families, they might not necessarily, they don't know what it's going to look like because we don't necessarily know what it's going to look like. And obviously then the children don't know what it's going to look like. So it's a lot of unknown really for a lot of people. And again, when we come in, there might be changes that we then make. So then it's just being constantly aware of loads of different changes, which is really difficult, I think, for a lot of children, a lot of families, as well as the staff.
And what did the school do to prepare for this? Because obviously you knew it was coming. So what did you do? Because you're working specifically with kids who are autistic and who will find transition difficult anyway, but given these some circumstances. So what have you done specifically to help the kids that are in your care?
So it's what we've done really is we've made a lot of visual resources available for our children. So we've put together like a year group video for all the children coming back in our key year groups to really show them exactly what school will look like or what we expect school to look like, and kind of showing a walkthrough through our procedures, visualizing the classrooms, kind of a bit of role play within our teaching team on camera of just how lessons might work, how break times and lunch times might work, just to kind of let the children have a visual idea of all these different scenarios. So I think it's all good saying, oh, it's going to be like this, but the children need to be able to visually see those things.
And is that because autistic kids need that more than other kids, or do you think that all kids need that? What's the difference for some of the autistic kids coming back into school and some
I,
of the neurotypical kids?
I think their anxieties are a lot higher because they've obviously got all the things going on with their sensory system. They've obviously got all these changes, which all nobody expected them at all. But for autistic children, they find those challenges and those changes a lot more difficult to comprehend and make sense in their mind. So again, they need processing time to kind of deal with a lot of it and managing all the emotions and energies and stuff. And again, not being able to access things like not being able to go and hug friends if you need a hug, or not being able to go and do those things like, for example, access sensory support on a one-to-one basis, or go into a certain calm space. It's a really big challenge for our pupils, for a lot of autistic pupils across England.
Now, you won't mind me saying this, but you're autistic yourself. So how have you found the transition from being, I know you had kids dribbling in all the way through, so you've had sort of a few kids, but now they're coming back and there's more of them. How are you finding it?
It's been tricky, I think, because again, we're having to change things on a daily basis and really look at what's working and what isn't working. And again, because nothing is set in concrete, set in stone, it's very difficult to know what to expect or to be able to inform the children I work with, yes, this is exactly what's going to happen, because then if I break that trust with them, I could then be damaging our relationship.
But how does it make you feel, all the different changes?
It's overwhelming at times, but because I'm really fortunate to work in a great school with a really good support network and really good staffing, I'm able to kind of share my concerns with staff and things, and it always gets fed back to our leaders, and we always work around problems.
Because I think that people are relying on the teachers to make it all okay, forgetting that the teachers have got their own challenges, whether it be in their family, in their own sort of personality type, in the stress that they have to encounter day to day, and also trying to do your best. And I know nobody wants to knock the teachers, but I imagine parents are quite frustrated at not knowing what's going to happen, and maybe some of the communication being a little bit making them feel unsafe. And I suppose I want to applaud parents to really work with the teacher and to have that communication. I know it's difficult because you probably can't even get close to them anymore, but just trust that your teacher is finding out their own way, and it's all brand new. If I was a parent thinking about whether I should bring my child my special educational needs child back to school, what would you say? What advice would you give me to prepare them?
I would say that it's important to obviously talk through the proposed timetable, because I think it's important, firstly, for teachers and the staff in the school to be having that really clear communication with families to say, this is what you're going to expect. And I think that there should be things given by schools, like a video resource, or definitely letters, at least talking through what the expectations are and roughly what to expect. So I'd expect a parent really to perhaps be going onto the school website, seeing if there's any pictures and things, just to remind the child of what the school buildings look like, kind of talk through that and talk about what might be different in the school based on the information they're being given. But also to be reminding them that they might not be in their normal classroom, they might not be with their normal friends, they might not even have their normal teacher, but to really reassure them that that's okay and that there might be changes, but they are very safe. And again, it's really keeping it open to then things are going to change or things might change. So it isn't definitely, this is how it is, because again, if something was to change, you lose the trust, you lose the positive relationship.
And would you say if your child doesn't want to go back to school yet, that you should be encouraging them, or do you think it's better just to let the child lead? Do you have a thought on that?
I think it's an interesting one, because I can see from both points. I can see as a parent and as a teacher, and from being an autistic child as well, that if I didn't want to go to school, you think with your feet, and the more someone forces you, the more wound up and aggravated you get. And sometimes you've just got to really pick that battle. But I think sometimes as well, children do, if they are safe and secure, they do need that little push to kind of leave their little safety bubble, because otherwise we're wrapping children in cotton wool, and they're never going to, it's going to be even harder then to kind of leave that, if that makes sense.
But I suppose some of them are going to go back for a few weeks and then they've got the summer holiday. Would you say it's quite good to have that taster to remind them before the 6-week break, or just not even bother if it's going to be problematic? Or are you saying actually read the case? If it's a child doesn't really want to go, there's no point making them, but there could be a little nudge just to get somebody back in for a few weeks.
I think read it, but do it off your own child rather than off what you think's best. You've got to work with your child, and there's no point making your child unhappy. But again, keeping that communication open with school, and schools at the moment across the country are really open to not having the children come and have a go, and if they don't like it, then not coming back, or vice versa, and choosing not to come in and changing their mind. It's just about being as open as possible as schools and as parents and carers, and to support our young people, really.
And now some of them have been back for a few weeks. Have they started to settle in? Do you think it's been a good thing to let them back into the school?
I personally think it's been a really good thing to let them back into the school, because being at home, the structures and the routines are really, really different. And although for some autistic children, that's an absolutely fantastic thing, they're really missing out on their social and personal development. And that's often a thing that autistic people really struggle with. Not always, but quite often something that autistic people find a bit tricky. And I think the less and less they're doing something they find hard, the harder and harder it is to do it. And then the fear comes into that factor of, oh, I haven't done it for a while, I'm not quite sure. And the longer and longer it is, I think the worse it can kind of get.
So it sounds like you're saying maybe just dip your toe in so you get a sense of it before the summer.
Yeah. If you're given the opportunity, again, it's very difficult because different year groups have got different rules. And again, it's different for every single school, but it's just about trying to find what obviously fits best with health and safety policies and legislation, because unfortunately that does have to be the priority at the moment. But I think a lot of schools are really flexible in finding ways to work to support the family, as well as keeping within the guidelines.
Did you find that some kids really liked the isolation, really liked being at home?
Yes.
Yeah,
And when I was talking to a lot of the children, I had time to do the things that they said that they had time to do the things that they wanted to do, which was really nice. And I learned so many talents and things that the children had, which obviously you don't get to see in the classroom, because in the classroom, primarily we follow the curriculum. And it was so nice to see that children have found strengths in other parts of life that weren't just the curriculum.
That's what I've noticed talking to some of the kids that we work with. They've sort of lent into some new enjoyment activities that they've kind of just excelled in, whether it be drumming or magic or And we know somebody, don't we? He's got into archery. And Jacob, who we know at drama, he's making his own bows and arrows, and he's got a target in the garden. He's learning about archery and history, and that wouldn't have happened. And really finding a kind of enjoyment in some quiet pursuits that normally, as you say, they haven't got enough time to, or it's just not on the curriculum. I just hope that we can then learn from that and maybe trust these kids to lead us to what's good for them, rather than, not you, but the school curriculum saying, no, you have to do this, and then you can go and do the other stuff when you've got energy left. Well, as we know, a lot of the kids after a day at school, they haven't got any energy left, have they? They've worked so hard.
It'd be really nice to see after this, I think, changes within the curriculum to, again, as you say, really allow these interests, because we know that autistic kids learn best when they are doing something they're passionate about, and they're really on board with it then. But then, as a support member of staff point of view, I really see that that's a challenge for teachers to be able to incorporate children's special interests into, because they have things like their moderation, their staff meetings and things. But it would be really nice as a government and the Department of Education to find a way to really balance things out.
And I think it's really great because you see both sides, well, more than both sides of it. So first of all, you are new to teaching. So it wasn't long ago that you were in a school, and you've done amazingly well. So you know what that experience is like. You've also explored being autistic yourself in school. You're now a teacher who was a sort of support teacher who was in a teaching environment before all of this, and you're now in it, and you've been in it all the way through while it's been going on, and now the transition. So there must be so many things that you've learned that you wouldn't even thought you were going to learn as a teacher.
Oh, completely.
What's the main thing that you've learned, do you think, Jordan, being in the school?
I think it's really about learning that everyone is just so different and so unique, and you kind of have an idea, but your idea is nowhere near at all. And you realise that actually there's always room for you to improve your practice, and to really get to know, to really improve the practice is to really get to know each and every one of your children that you work with, to be able to get the very best out of them.
So you were in school this morning, weren't you? So what are some of the things you were doing this morning?
This morning I was checking in with some of our vulnerable children, just making sure that they're okay, and again, seeing how they've transitioned from the school timetable into the childcare provision today, to see how that because that's a big transition to being in a full-time classroom all week to then going into a childcare facility.
So what's the childcare facility at your school? What do you mean by that?
So that's like for all open for all our vulnerable families and parents of children who do key worker
coming
jobs
in for classes on certain days, and then other days, if they're key worker or vulnerable, they go to a less structured environment in the school. But
yes.
It's school. Okay. And you've been dipping in and out of that. Well, that's consistency as well, so that they see you regularly. That's amazing.
Yes.
Autistic kids really like consistency. They like routine, even sometimes they look like they don't like routine. They need some structure. And that's probably why it's been so hard, because from the beginning of this, it's not been a consistent thing. It's not a consistent message. It's not a consistent virus. Families often are erratic, so that's not consistent. People coming and going, and meal times changing. But school is the one thing that is consistent. So we almost need to get it back in place, even if it doesn't feel like it did before. There is some consistency, and I'm really heartened by you, because I hear, and I talk to you a lot, I'm going to check in on them. I'm going to check in on them. So you are the consistent face, and I think that's invaluable, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think it's really important, because again, there's different faces of children, different faces of adults in the setting every day. But and again, that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. I think sometimes it's good to mix it up and almost challenge for children in the fact that it is a bit different. And it, again, is almost a social lesson of everyone's a bit different. Everybody interacts differently. Everybody kind of runs a bit differently. But again, to kind of have that consistent face just present there, just for a little bit each day, I think is really important.
Well, I'm going to let you go because you've had a long morning at school. But I think the key messages here are, it is good to try and encourage your child to go back to school, even if it's just to have a visit and see what it's like before September. Yeah. I'm also hearing that if the school is doing the visual engagement tools, either on the internet or through some live videos, make sure that as a parent, you're accessing those and sitting down with the child and going through it. And if they're not, and I think most schools are, but some will obviously be better than others, do it for yourself as a parent. Make a little scrapbook, or make some visual representation of how it's going to be and what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think as a parent, don't just rush into it. Right, school tomorrow. I think there needs to be a build-up. Would you say?
Yes, definitely. I think if you kind of just, if you jump into it, it's just going to be a lot of thoughts, and there's going to be no processing time. We've got to allow for that. And again, time to ask questions, time to really think about it. And again, your child might not have questions, but that might be not because they don't have questions, but they might not be able to process the thoughts to get the questions. So really talking it down nice and clear, thinking of as many things as you can, really talking about what might you smell in the school now, what might smell different, or what might you hear, what might people say, and going and almost role playing something like a social distancing, what someone might say to you if you go too close. Because again, I think a lot of children might become quite upset if someone says, oh, you're too close, you need to move right back. And almost that, but not that it's abrupt, but it's almost a little bit unfriendly, could be quite upsetting for an autistic child. So almost just have a bit of fun role playing in the house of different scenarios.
Really useful advice. And I must say, if you were looking after my children, I'd feel very, very safe and supported. Jordan, thank you so much. I think it's going to be really useful to parents out there who are worrying, but also maybe some teachers who are not quite sure how to address it with their pupils. But thank you so, so much, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
No problem. Thank you very much. You too. Take care.